Hey guys, so in today's video, we're going to be breaking down a track that I've remade in the style of Roy Rosenfeld and Chris Block, who are upcoming tribal house deep tech artists who are pushing this really underground Afro sound. So we're going to start with the basics here, and we have this kick and bass. We have a basic kick and bass pattern that sounds like this. And it's important not to overthink the actual plugin used for the bass here. I've just got a simple sine wave from Operator run through a drum bus and some glue compression. And it's just playing this simple pattern. There's a D note and a sharp. So it's just playing this basic alternating pattern. And we have the kick drum as well that creates this nice rhythm. On top of that, we also have this tom pattern, which is very common in this deep Afro style. So let's listen to this with the toms as well. So I'll show you the MIDI. It's just a very basic pattern here. And I've EQ'd out the highs, which makes sense when I show you the rest of the drums, the other high elements. We don't need the top frequencies, which sound like this. With a tom in this kind of groove, you can just EQ out the higher frequencies. At least that's what I've noticed these artists doing. So then when it comes to the shakers, I have three shaker loops. One is pan to the left, one is pan to the right, and one is pan to the right as well. And these are basically sidechain compressed to the kick drum to give them bounce. So let's listen to everything that we have together. Let's listen to the shakers on their own first. And these were taken from our tribe pack here, Global Rhythms. You can just look in shakers. The percussionist played lots of different shaker rhythms, which I use in all of my tracks now. So we have the toms, the shakers, the kick, the bass, which sounds all like this. And that's a very common pattern in this style of music. And I just added a very basic percussion loop from one of our packs as well. On its own, it sounds like this. And I made sure to EQ out the highs and the lows. So altogether we have a more cohesive pattern. And on top of all of this, I added a hat sound. And like a ha FX sound from a vocal. And these two sounds emphasize the kick drum. So I'll turn these on and you can hear this in the context of the whole drum groove. So and this particular sound was just from an ad lib from one of our packs, but you can make it from anything really. So let's move around the beginning of the sample. Obviously I preferred this sound because it kind of sounds like a hat, but it's just really fits the groove nicer. So we also have this djembe here, which is just a one-shot. And I layered it with a sine wave from Serum to emphasize the C, so the C note. And I wanted that because it fits in with the rhythm of the bass, the oscillating bass. So if I just solo out the kick and bass and the djembe, and this is a nice trick. Whenever you have a one shot, you can actually layer it with a sine wave. And you can obviously go in. It just adds a bit more body to the actual one shot sound, which is really nice as well. So then all together with the drums, and the bass introduction, we have this overall sound. So let's listen to it. And there's minimal processing on all of this, just basically EQ and some compression on the hi-hats and the shakers. Okay, so moving on to section 2 of the arrangement, we have a switch up or an addition to the drums in these tambourine sounds. So the tambourine sounds like this, which is a very common pattern in this Afro sound. And it's layered with a wind synth where the release time is automated. So it sounds like this. What you do is you go into release, and let's say I wanted to emphasize the end of the 4 bars. This is a really good trick for adding movement because it's going to sound like a wind FX, but also a hi-hat at the same time, and it's just white noise. So that is introduced here. And then there's also a flute sound, which is just in Serum 2. If you can find, if you load up sample and then find factory flute sounds, it's just a basic pattern playing a melody in the key, which is probably C major, in the same rhythm as that tambourine. It's just C and G, so a fifth. So with this flute and tambourine added in, and another percussion loop, the next section sounds like this. We also have obviously this choir sound, which is just this Vox synth pop choir preset on Serum, and it's just playing some top line melody notes in the scale. Some sharp notes there, so probably not in C major, but also in this section, we have the keys, which is a really nice preset in Serum 2 called Retrograde. And it's kind of like this glidey piano sound where there's like a pitch bend at the start of the sound. So these chords just basically repeat, and I've got a filter, auto filter opening up over the course of the breakdown, layered with obviously the flute and all the other sounds as well. This second choir sound is just mirroring the chords. It's a really nice preset as well called Granular Voices. So that's the harmony and the flute sound, which is like the main melody in the breakdown section. We also have this lead sound here, which is a preset called Modular by Audio 10 in Serum 2. And basically the only parameter that's being automated here is the frequency, I think. The open of the free, yeah. So like the high frequencies have been taken out in the breakdown. And it's just playing this pattern here. So it's like a kind of like an arpeggiator. With all of these playing together, You could actually open up the high frequencies even more here, like that. But hopefully this is giving you an idea of some of the sounds that you can introduce into your deep Afro tracks. So we've got like flute sounds, keys, choirs, and then this lead sound in Serum 2 as well. But everything together in the breakdown, I'll only play a slight portion of it. Obviously the drums drop out for 8 bars near the end, but it's a nice selection of sounds for you to hear and get inspiration from. So let's play it from like here. Also in the breakdown, if you're writing your breakdown, it's quite a good idea to add conga fills and just other percussion fills like this. You can obviously remove the low end, which I haven't done yet, but sort of like background percussion, which is quite common in these genres. And I've also run it through an echo and some reverb as well, so that it's not too in your face, but it's noticeable. So before I explain the drop, this is quite a good trick as well. So you have an arpeggiator on a one-shot. The one-shot on its own sounds like this. But if you run it through an arpeggiator and automate the rate, you get this cool effect. And I've also added a fill here. Oh no, sorry, that's turned off. So ignore that. But there's, I think there's a build-up effect somewhere as well. Here we go. And obviously when you're doing your breakdowns, to create contrast between the breakdown and the drop, just add a EQ to your master channel and sweep out the low frequencies up to about 100 Hertz. And then bring them all back in on the drop to create contrast. So when it comes to the actual drop, the priority is then back to the lead, which was filtered out in the breakdown. So when you're thinking of what to put in your drop, if you introduce the lead sound filtered out in the breakdown, you can then use it as the main sound in the actual drop itself. So it sounds like this. I've dropped it down an octave now. But the reason why I can use that and still use the same bass line is because I've filtered out the low frequencies here. So if I play that with the drums, just the kick drum, bass. And this is a really good sound because there's loads of macros that you can automate, and I've added one for this bowed shift and obviously the frequency. So if you look at the cutoff, it's being automated there as well, and you can actually see it. I've created this. Let's accentuate it to show what this automation does. And to give it a more analog feel, I've added in some white noise. So just select noise on and add it to the filter. And what that will do is when you open up the filter, it sounds like the noise is opening up as well, which is a good effect to have. It's also sent to a lot of reverb, and I've got it on, reverb and echo. And I have a saturator on it as well. In the drop, there's also this chord, which is actually just playing one note, so you can ignore this. And it's just in Serum 2, if you go to the sampler and then select E piano chord, it has these really nice sound design elements on it, like bit crush and vinyl noise. And I've added it to an echo as well. And you can use these chord hits at the end of every 4 bars, kind of like a transition, like how you would use a percussion fill. So let's hear how that sounds. Then every 8 bars, you can also add in these interesting sound effect sounds, and you can get creative with which sound you use here. So you can design it from scratch in Serum or use a synthesizer, for example. But every 8 bars, you can also bring out the low frequencies as well. So here, I've swept out the low frequencies and then bring everything back in. And that's an easy way to create tension and release in your drop, so it keeps the listener engaged. You can also break the drop into 2 distinct sections. So this is the first part of the drop and this is the second part. And what you can do is add in other elements which you've previously taken out from your composition. So I've added in here the loop into the second part so that we have some interest in comparison to the first part. So that's pretty much it for this track. Hopefully that all made sense. It's quite a basic track when it comes down to it, but the sound design elements are all very carefully chosen so that we have a really solid arrangement. So hopefully you learnt some techniques for Afro tech in this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson.